It's 5 o'clock on May 20th. You lied to me. No. It's 5 o'clock on May 20th, 2025. Time is scheduled for the McMinnville Water and Light Commission meeting. I call it to order. Trina McManus, will you please do a roll call?
Yes, Mayor Morris,
Here.
Commissioner Tankersley,
Here.
Commissioner Elmer,
Here.
Commissioner Garvin,
Here.
and Commissioner Macy Baker is excused this evening.
Thank you. We have 3 items listed on our consent agenda tonight. Would any commissioner like to remove any of the items from the consent agenda?
No.
No.
Okay. Perfect. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Okay, so I have a motion from Commissioner Elmer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Tankersley. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Included in the packet are accounts payable and purchasing reports. Are there any questions on these reports?
No.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. We have no new employee introductions. Next, we have the consultant and partner reports. We asked Brent Keller, our forester, to please update the commission.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. We're still working on 2024 stumpage sales. The 304-1 road sale is, of course, active operation. A1's currently logging and trucking from that sale. It was purchased by Boise Cascade. And roughly 306 loads, as of the time of this letter, been shipped to Boise and other destinations. Estimated volume to date off of that sale is right around 403,000 board feet. Estimated value is 246,000. And also with 2024 sales, the 550 road number 3 sale, of course, was logged last year, and the final piece of the contract obligation on that one is proof that Simpson paid the harvest taxes. And enclosed is an email from Oregon Department of Revenue confirming Simpson paid the 550 road number 3 harvest taxes. So I'd recommend at this time the release of the performance and payment bonds and their cash deposit of $25,000.
Brent, this is Tom. Did they pay us in full for the timber?
Yes, yep, that's all reconciled and counting on the job is done. That was all buttoned up last year. This is just
Okay.
that final piece we need from them.
So I move that we release the payment and performance bond.
And also the cash deposit of $25,000 in favor of Stimson Lumber for the 550 road number 3 timber sale.
Okay, is that your motion, Commissioner Tankersley?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Elmer. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, motion passes. Any other questions for Brent, or is he good to go?
I have one more question. Brent, I noticed that we're getting a lot of these sales being logged a year later. Are we seeing higher yields dollar-wise because the trees have grown another year?
Yeah, yes, we would, for sure.
No, and I think we should, but have we?
Well, it'd be hard to know without, I guess you never would. I mean, the trees are growing. These are older stands, so they're not growing at the rate they would be at age 40. But they're growing still at maybe 0.5% or 1% a year, clearly. So we would be seeing that. It'd be hard to quantify. Obviously you can't cut it one year and then cut it the next and calculate the difference. But
And that would be in your margin of error from the crews, right, for your estimate?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just had, Mayor, I just had one final piece here to talk about 2025
Okay.
sales real quick.
Okay.
350 Boundary Road sale, to Tom's point, Stimson's going to log that next year. That was a 2-year contract. And then I met with their logger and Stimson last Friday on the ground to work out a few final details on the 730 sale, and they're looking to bring cutters in no later than the 1st of June and get cranking on that sale. So I look forward to that. That's all I had. Any other questions?
None.
That's it, Brent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. We have no appearance requests tonight, so we're going to move on to Sam Justice. You have a report for us?
So included in your packet is my memo to the commission. This is not a confidential communication. It's offered regarding budget process and the relation to rate making. Speaking with Ms. McManus, your rate analyst, talking about this, it just seemed like it might be a good idea to give the commission some background information on the relationship of the budget or the estimate of expense process that we go through annually, how that's related to both the city charter and to our rate making process. It all flows together. And so unlike the city that operates under the local budget law, Waterlight doesn't operate under the local budget law. It's specifically exempted from that law. But Waterlight does operate under the requirements of the city charter and state law with regards to rate making, and specifically we're required by the city charter to later have a public hearing on rates. But this memo and the appendix excerpts from the charter and from state law are just offered to let you sort of as an educational piece, just to let you know how this whole process flows together. You're in a step in a longer process that will culminate in rate making later this year, probably in the August, September timeframe. So anyway, if you have any questions either today or later about this, feel free to give me a call.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
No, I appreciate that, because being new here, it's a fairly overwhelming budget to go through and try to go. I really don't have any reference to go off of,
Right.
compare or to balance it out. So I think that would be.
But it is part of this larger process. We're going through this budgeting, which in the charter you refer to as estimate of expenses. That's the requirement.
Yeah.
And then related to the rate classes, going through the cost of service study, which is you're going to see later as we move into the process in the summer, you're going to see that cost of service study, and that'll flow into the rate hearings.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions from commissioners that are online?
No, thanks.
Okay.
Very helpful, Sam. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
No questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. The first item under new business is CMGC contract for office expansion, remodel, and seismic retrofit. Chad Hudson?
Yes, good
Chad?
evening. A big piece of the packet, since I started printing it off today. Yes, thank you. Tonight, staff is seeking through commission resolution to award the contract for the construction manager, general contractor for the office expansion and warehouse seismic retrofit project to the highest ranked proposer. PNC Construction for pre-construction services. At the May 5th special meeting, Commission authorized staff to issue a notice of intent to award and enter contract negotiations with PNC. Since that time, both things have happened. No protests were received. PNC did not take any exception to the terms and conditions of the contract, which is in your packet, including your packet tonight. And the pre-construction services under this contract, total amount is $43,498. The services included in this contract include but are not limited to pre-con investigation, constructability reviews, design assistance, construction document reviews, estimating, all with the intention is leading up to a guaranteed maximum price for construction or a GMP. Project team will be designing to a GMP of $17 million, and that GMP was generated from the campus master plan. It was completed by Soderstrom. So that's where we're getting those estimates from. The contract does allow for an off-ramp of sorts throughout the contract and pre-con services and at the point of GMP. That being said, staff is confident through the selection process and our due diligence that we'll be presenting a GMP amendment to the commission in the spring of 2026, in that rough time frame. A little background on PNC, they've been in operation for 64 continuous years. References contacted were very, very positive, to say the least. Terms like team member and partner were frequently used, which is critical to the success of a CMG, any project for that matter, but a CMGC project specifically. In addition, staff is recommending to designate the general manager as an owner representative for section 4.2 of the contract document that's included. This will allow us to be a little bit more nimble through the process and make decisions, avoiding delays with the CMGC through the process. So in conclusion, staff is seeking commission resolution to award the contract to the highest ranked proposer, PNC Construction, for the general manager or the construction manager, general contractor, the office expansion remodel, the warehouse seismic retrofit. Don't know why we have a long name like that, but we do. For pre-construction services for the contract price of $43,498, and also designate Mike Minville Water and Light General Manager as the owner's representative in accordance with the contract.
Okay. Commissioners, do I have any questions? No questions?
No questions.
You don't have a question? Okay. Do I have a motion?
And I have, if you're ready for it, I have a resolution. We'll be doing this by resolution. Also would note that in the resolution, we're also designating MW&L Architects Incorporated as the architect. This is resolution number 2025-6, a resolution by the City of McMinnville's Water and Light Commission to award a construction manager, general contractor contract for the office expansion remodel and warehouse seismic retrofit project. That's resolution 2025-6.
Okay. Rena?
Madam Mayor, I would move that we adopt that resolution and in support of that, I think that the $43,000 number for pre-construction services, we'll get that money out of it, I'm sure.
Okay. So Commissioner Tankersley. Do I need a second? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Elmer. Now Trina?
Yes, Mayor Morris,
Aye.
Commissioner Tankersley,
Aye?
Commissioner Elmer,
Aye.
Commissioner Garvin.
Aye.
Thank you. You're staying there. Next item is consideration of warehouse seismic strengthening with addition.
Yes. So one of the early tasks in the scope of services with MW Architects was to complete a study to analyze the costs associated with completing the warehouse expansion in phase 0.5 in conjunction with the seismic upgrades of the existing warehouse, or to complete the addition per the Water and Light Campus Master Plan in 2035, or in phase 3. Staff received the report from MWA in the middle of April, and we presented it to the commission for informational purposes at the special meeting on May 5th. I just want to let everybody know that Stephen Olhaber from MWA Architects, looks like Spencer Stroh is also here from WRK Structural Engineers. He's a subconsultant of MWA. They're here virtually, and if you have any questions regarding the report, they're here to ask questions or answer questions. Just a brief summary of the report. We kind of went over already, but it looked at option A and option B, the two options I already explained. The report assumes that Water and Light will expand the warehouse at some point in time. And that if we elect to forego an addition now, we're in phase 0.5, that it will occur in 2035. And a lot of their estimation is based on escalation that they see in the market. So that's how they're getting the 2035 costs. So it's important that we recognize those factors. The report does not take into account just seismically upgrading the warehouse alone. And that's what we have right now with MWA. That's built into the scope. That's the way the master plan was, and so we carried it that way. And so there's an estimated cost of $2.8 million that we took from the master plan and inserted into the GMP. So those costs are in there regardless. So and the report highlights the three costs. Option A, to forego the expansion now and do it 2035 is about 13.9 million. Option B, pushing it to expediting it to phase 0.5 is 7.9. And option C, just doing the standalone seismic like we're doing right now, is at 2.8 million. So operations are going to be impacted regardless. Doesn't matter if we do it in phase 0.5 or phase 3. The idea would be to touch it once and get it over with. There's a lot of potential efficiencies that can be realized through doing the construction at one time. Operationally, we're not going to interrupt the warehouse operations twice. I'm not exactly sure what that's going to look like, but the potential for adding on to the warehouse right now, and maybe MWA can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's potential maybe to do in the addition, moving staff materials into that new addition while they do work in the current warehouse. So I think there's a lot of potential for that as well. At the special meeting, there was a request to do present value analysis, cost of money. So we did that. We included it in the packet. We did subtract the 2.8 million from the total that is in the study, since it's already, we're already doing that. I mean, it's in the GMP. So if we subtract that 2.8 million, the cost between option C, just doing what we're doing now, and option B, moving it to phase 0.5, is about $5.1 million. And then the future value calculated for waiting until 2035 to expand the warehouse is about $8.1 million, more than $2 million short of the funds required to complete the expansion in 2035. In addition, Waterlight's warehouse, we're near capacity. Over the years, we have upgraded the warehouse, added storage to it. I think if we wait till 2035, storage will become an issue, most definitely. Staff is recommending to advance the warehouse in phase 0.5. I think it makes operational, financial sense to do so now. And also constructability wise. There is potential that if the addition is complete in 25, some of the work that we do now would be reworked. And so we're gonna have staff here, you know, over those 10 years are going to feel the impact twice. So staff is recommending to advance phase 0.5 and move that or the seismic retrofit in addition to phase 0.5 of the master plan. And if it approved, staff would need to bring a contract amendment back to the commission. MWA scope does not include the addition, so that would be something that we'd have to bring back to the commission at a later date.
So your recommendation is option B.
Oh,
Is
did I
that correct?
misspeak? It is option
Okay.
B.
I just want, no, I'm not saying, I just.
No,
You're
I
not
saw
the other
you
way.
and said, I must have misspoke.
So, okay, commissioners, discussion?
Real quickly, I think that I know the answer, and I think you did it, but you did compound when you figured the interest on the money, right? When you
Yes.
figured the interest on on what we what we would be spending now?
Yes.
Yes, Shane is saying yes.
You compounded, right?
Yes.
I
Correct.
thought so. Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioner Elmer?
That was part of my question
Oh.
as well, but so, look, I mean, the time value of money, the value of the project in 10 years. The fact that we're bumping up against capacity or space as we speak, and we're going to start construction on that building. These numbers that we're using, are those, you said you have to go back to them, are these, do you feel comfortable with these numbers, or do you think when we go back there,
I'm feeling pretty confident. I think, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, MWA, but I think we can feel pretty confident in these numbers.
those
Yeah, the
numbers are good?
number I think he's talking about is we'll have to go back to amend the contract with
Just,
MW&L.
okay, so
Yeah.
we're not going looking and
Right.
repricing or redoing
Right.
anything, we're comfortable with
Just
these
adjusting the
numbers.
contract.
We are adjusting the contract with MWA, because like I said, we were just primarily focused on the seismic upgrade itself.
Yeah.
Throughout the process, it was brought to our attention like, hey, what if? This is probably a good idea. If you guys look at this, you guys could save money. And so that's where we're at today. And so we'd have to come back with a contract amendment with MWA architects.
Okay.
All right.
Commissioner Garvin, do you have any questions? Nope.
No, it all sounds great, and I support moving forward with that
Okay,
expansion now to save money.
All right, so I'm going to suggest some motion language, if you want to consider this. So this would be a motion to approve the advancement of the warehouse addition of to phase 0.5 from phase 3 of the Water and Light Campus Master Plan by integrating the structural systems of the existing warehouse and the addition to achieve ASCE risk category 4 seismic standards for immediate occupancy, and direct staff to negotiate a contract amendment with MWA Architects for design and construction of the warehouse addition in phase 0.5, and return said amendment to the commission for consideration to approve.
thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
Do I have a motion to approve what he just said?
Could I just add one piece in there? I'm sorry to interrupt. Thanks for having me tonight. So Chad, we would have to go back to PNC to talk to them about their pre-construction services to add this additional scope into their contract as well.
Correct. I spoke with PNC. They didn't think it's going to impact it much, but yeah, you are correct. I think most of it will probably be captured in the GMP and construction phase.
Yeah.
There is potential for that. I don't think it's going to impact it a ton, but
Really, the issue would be the ground, not because that's what you're building is on the
Yeah.
ground. So there might be some investigation in the ground.
Right.
In the addition, but
which we do have hourly rates. If we happen to bump up against it, we do have hourly rates already established for the recon services. So
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to throw a wrench into it. I just wanted to
No.
clarify that point.
No, thank you very much for speaking up. That's great.
Thank you.
Okay,
Excuse me, Steve, it makes sense to me that even if it doesn't cost more, we need to go back and change the scope in that agreement.
I would agree with you.
okay, so we have, do we have a motion for what Sam Justice said in regards to changing this?
So moved.
And would the motion also include going back and talking to the CMG about changing the scope to include this? Sam, we have that all together?
We do a second motion.
We can do a second motion.
We're gonna do a
Let's
second
Let's do a
motion.
second.
Okay,
on
great,
that.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so I have a motion from Commissioner Elmer. I need a second.
Second,
For Tankersley. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, perfect. Now we're gonna do a
Uh,
quickly, write something. up.
Right, and I guess I would, a motion to direct staff to negotiate a contract amendment with PNC Construction to add the additional seismic
Pre-construction services.
additional warehouse construction to the CMGC contract.
Okay, comfortable with that?
pre-construction services, isn't that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Right.
And so they didn't have to bring it, so we don't have to delay things unnecessarily. Can we say that if the price doesn't increase at all or by more than 5% or something like that, that the mayor and the clerk are authorized to sign without coming back to the commission?
Well, I mean, we'll be under contract with PNC in the immediate future. We're gonna have to come back to the commission for the amendment with MWA anyway.
Okay,
I
that's
think
fine
we
then.
can move forward at this point.
Okay.
And I'll just say that also our contract form with PNC did foresee this. So there is language in the existing document that does foresee this change. So it may be that they'll want something in that, but we do have language in there that foresees this warehouse addition because we did know about it at the
Great.
time we solicited the CMGC contract, that this is an option for us.
Great, thank you.
So with that, I guess we put that motion out to bring it to direct staff to bring an amendment back for the CMGC contract to add the warehouse addition.
Do we need to do that? That's already in. There? Just
Well,
bring it
let's
back?
go ahead. Let's go ahead and make the motion.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and have and direct staff to do that. And if for some reason it's not needed, we'll bring that back to the commission.
Okay. Are you comfortable with what you read?
I think I am. I'm Trina can figure that out.
Okay. Way to go, Trina. All right. So do I have a motion to accept what Sam?
So
Right.
moved.
Okay, Tankersley, do I have a second?
Second.
Come on, Denny. Commissioner Elmer. Any further discussion? Nope. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Okay, so now next item is to request to set a public hearing for electric rates. I invite utility rate analyst Trina McManus to present.
Thank you. Staff has been working with Utility Financial Solutions for about 3 months now on the 2025 electric cost of service study. We're going to be ready to present the preliminary results to the commission at the July meeting. So tonight we're asking for the commission to direct staff to advertise for the public hearing that will be on July 15th, 2025. Staff recommendation is to start at 4 o'clock for that meeting, but that's a question for the commission. If everyone's available to start an hour early, that presentation usually does take a chunk of time. So we thought we would ask if everybody's available. If not, we can start at our regular 5 o'clock time. We just need to know how to publish for the hearing.
I can adjust my schedule for that. Any other commissioners have input?
I think I can come by Zoom. I'm going to be out of the country. But there's a second hearing. We'll have a second. The hearing will be continued, right, Trina?
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
we will continue the hearing to August. This is just the preliminary results.
Okay, great.
What was the date and time again? My phone cut out. I'm driving.
It will be July 15th at 4 o'clock. So the normal commission meeting date in July, but at 4 p.m. instead of 5.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, so we need action
So-
here.
So this would be a motion to set a public hearing on electric rates for July 15th, 2025 at 4 p.m. and direct staff to advertise the hearing in English and Spanish.
Motion,
So moved.
Commissioner Elmer, do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Garden, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is the Oregon Clean Fuels Program, declaring credit surplus. Invite Jamie Phillips, our Power Resources Manager.
Thank you. So I'd like to provide a little background on the Oregon Clean Fuels Program for the commission. This is a program that was passed in 2009 by the Oregon legislature, and directed the Department of Environmental Quality to establish rules to reduce the average carbon intensity of transportation fuels in the state. They did this, the goal, being to reduce and to regulate the fuel importers and producers in the state and to reduce the carbon intensity of those emissions. The program created obligations for those regulated parties, also created a market for what we call clean fuel credits. Those credits are generated by credit generators such as electric utilities whose fuel that is produced has a lower carbon intensity than the fossil fuels we're trying to mitigate. So in 2019, Water and Light first registered with the state to participate in the program. For credit generators, participation is voluntary. We have received credits every year based on the number of electric vehicles registered in our service territory and the calculated emissions that are offset by using electricity as a fuel. And every 6 months, the state deposits clean fuel credits into our account. They calculate the number of vehicles, the carbon intensity, and those translate to credits, which are marketable and usually sold to regulated parties to comply with the program. So in April, McMinnville received our second half of the calendar year 2024 credits to the tune of 1,166 clean fuel credits. This adds to our previous balance of 2,876 clean fuel credits for a total of 4,042. And this evening, I am here to ask for the commission to approve a resolution to declare as surplus those additional 1,166 credits and redeclare the 2,876 credits and delegate authority to the general manager to approve a sale of these clean fuel credits pursuant to our public contracting policy.
Okay. Some justice.
We have a resolution for that purpose. This is a resolution number 2025-7, a resolution by the city of McMinnville acting by and through its Water and Light Commission, declaring clean fuel credits surplus and authorizing and delegating to the general manager authority to sell clean fuel credits. That's 2025-7.
A motion based on Sam
So moved.
Tankersley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Elmer. Any discussion?
Are these are they something you just put out on the market and there's people waiting to purchase them, and is there a set price or is it a bid type thing?
There are price maximums set every year and it escalates. The state DEQ hosts a buy sell board on their portal where obligated parties can find sellers and transact. And that is how we have sold these in the past, is through that. You can also pursue a sale outside of that portal, but it's clearly laid out and the parties are already registered in the system if we do it that way. Yeah.
And regardless if you go outside or stay with them, it's still bound by that ceiling of what the DEQ says the values of them should be.
Right.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion on the table. No further questions. Can I have Trina take a poll?
Yes, Mayor Morris,
Aye.
Commissioner Tankersley,
Aye.
Commissioner Elmer,
Aye.
Commissioner Garvin.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. Next item is a presentation of the fiscal year 25-26 draft budget. Finance Director Mark Dunmeyer.
Good evening.
Hi.
Yeah, we have another budget presentation for you. Imagine that,
We're so excited.
that time of the year. So, well, Pat's getting this ready. Thanks. Just was gonna mention, so, draft budget in final budget format. Been making changes to the budget. There will be more changes coming, of course, as we refine the budget, as we get ready for the proposed budget for the commission to consider in June. So got top button. Okay. So, seen this slide before, shows we're kind of moving through the process. And I've identified what we've gone over so far and what we'll go over this evening. I've got 16 slides to show you. We'll talk about our current fiscal year 24-25 and our estimated results. Last meeting, we talked about operating expenses, but we didn't have the full picture because we didn't have our non-operating estimated to give us, you know, our net income. We did have capital, but just not quite everything. So this time we've got everything for 24-25 in our estimates. We'll show you that and talk about some of the refinements we've made to that budget. And then we'll talk about the budgets in total. We'll talk about for water and light with everything now. And then we'll talk about our cash balances and minimum reserve. Our fire division budget, just a brief slide on that. And then we learned Thursday, we got our a quote back from City County Insurance for our general liability insurance, which is our largest piece of the insurance. And so they gave us quote and also some options that we could look at to reduce the premium if we are willing to do a higher deductible. So we'll show you that, show you what that looks like. And then some budget takeaways at the end. So this is our 24-25 estimated results, now complete with the non-operating income included. So highlighted or circled those at the bottom for the light division, 3.5 million and 4 million for water. And then I've also noted a couple of highlights there in green for water and light. So light, we budgeted originally an $855,000 loss with some additional revenues and savings on expenses. We're projecting a $313,000 operating income. And then for the water division, similar, just not quite as large. That $416,000 is coming from our revenues. We're about break even on our expenses. So doing better, both divisions in terms of what we budgeted, which is good. And then I also noted this one large negative number here. So we're coming in much lower on our non-operating income in the water division, but that is because of the Zone 2 pump station. That contribution is going to be moved to next year. So it was a $2 million contribution. So won't happen this year. So take that out and we're much closer to budget there as well. So things are looking very good. Fiscal year 24-25 for both divisions. For this year, this budget year, 25-26, this is showing you where we were last meeting. So I've got our numbers from the last meeting, April, and then May. And you can see here, we didn't have our non-operating last meeting, we do now. And then we also refined our expenses. And you can see we made some adjustments and we're able to reduce costs down in the light division by about $188,000 there. And then additionally, I've noted here in this box that we'll talk about the insurance premiums. There's a potential for a change there. And then also we did have a reduction that will be coming because the represented employees COLA was actually formula picked up the wrong percentage and it was a little bit high, so that'll get dropped down from 5 to 3. 3 is what the contract indicates for next year, and so that'll result in about a $28,000 reduction, half of which will go to the income statement. So the other half goes to the balance sheet for the work that the crews do with our capital investment. So for the water division, same view here, and then showing the changes here, not as significant, but again, a refinement, 16,000. And these refinements were made in looking at our fiscal year 24-25 estimated actuals. That's really an indication of where we can look at opportunities to refine our numbers for 25-26. And particularly in the water division, you could tell when I showed you the water division, we were almost spot on break even on our expenses. So there really wasn't a lot of opportunity for significant changes in our budget estimates. We were able to make a bit, but nonetheless, you look at the bottom line, because of a nearly $6 million operating income, we end up with a $5.2 million net income at the bottom. So still very strong budget picture for the water division, 25-26. So,
And is the 2 million?
oops, sorry, what's that?
Is the 2 million in this?
Yes, the 2 million is in that
The 5?
in that non-operating number there.
Okay.
So it's buried in that 6 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a quick question on the last slide, please. Why are we able to, or, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like the way you're cutting expenses, but what are we doing differently to have $130,000 less of tree trimming?
So the tree trimming is, so what's in the budget is so what we put in the budget is what we believe the actual tree trimming costs will be. The tree trimming contract is higher than this. And so what we've removed is that essentially we started with the contract and we removed out what we don't believe we will use unless there's a need to for either change in work or certainly like storm and that kind of thing.
Okay.
would play in there. So we basically removed it because we don't think we're necessarily going to need it. If we did, we are contracted to be able to use it. We would just have to look at our budget and see if we needed to adjust our budget at some point.
Great. Thank you, Mark. That's a good explanation. And again, I really appreciate the way you've looked and said, well, how do we cut this? That's good.
Yeah, this was a group effort, so we all met together, went through this. So here is the kind of the big picture, the full picture for the light division. We'll see one like this for the water division as well. So now that we have all of our expenses, both operating and non-operating, as well as non-operating and operating income, then you get the total revenues, just under 52 million, and total expenses, a little over 54. Then that gives us a cash decrease of 2.4. So you can see in the light division, particularly, it's interesting. The revenue picture is heavily skewed towards operating, where you won't see that as much in the water division. Water division, just in terms of a visual perspective, it's a significantly less, the operating income is less as a percentage than it is in the water or light division. So, and we'll go through and hit on some of these highlights. Also noted on this slide, and you'll see it on the water slide, the revenues in the case of the light division don't include any rate increases for distribution customers. And it won't include any rate increases for the water customers either. We don't include rate increases in our budget for the current year under budget, as well as the future, because those have not been approved by the commission. We go through the rate hearings and process to do that. So,
But the industrial
Yes,
or a direct pass through, so.
yeah. Yeah, those are included here. So, so I mentioned we've got net income calculated now, and I've circled that at the bottom, 1.5 million. And we're able to calculate that because now we have our non-operating income estimated, and I highlighted there in yellow a couple of the larger numbers. Our investment income at just under 2.2 million, and then contributed capital 1.15 million there. So when you add the non-operating income with the operating loss shown above, that's where you get the 1.5. And I also indicated on here rate increases that have happened. So we had 2.75% rate increase in 2024 and 24-25, and we're in process on our cost of service study now that will give us a rate track for the next 3 years. So that's our kind of our picture of non-operating income and net income for the light division. For the light division, our cash balances. So that $2.4 million number there circled, we saw that on the pie chart. That's our reduction or use of cash for fiscal year 25-26, and how that is calculated essentially is you take your beginning balance and add back our net income, subtract out the cash outlay for capital, and then that is results in our use of cash for the fiscal year. And you can see that as we go out into the future years, that use of cash continues to grow, and certainly a driver of that is the capital projects that we have shown here at the bottom. As well as, like I mentioned, we don't have any rate increases in the revenues, which would certainly drive a change in the net income number that you see there. So, and then on our minimum cash and our designations, designated cash amounts. So last July, the commission adopted a minimum cash reserve policy. And so we've calculated that minimum cash reserve per policy for this fiscal year. And you can see that 24 million amount there. And then we compare that to the ending cash. And you can see in this fiscal year, we're well above that. But as we go out into the future years, the last 3 of the projection, ending cash drops below the minimum reserve. And again, just what I shared in the previous slide, that's driven both by capital spend as well as no revenue change in terms of increases versus the costs all have increased projected into them. And then I showed at the bottom here our ending cash number with all of our different reserves that we've designated. Biggest one in the electric division or light division is the electric underground facilities reserve. That's money set aside to be able to underground our electric facilities. And we also see the clean fuel program projects in there as well. So
excuse me, but Mark, for the benefit of the rest of the commission, correct me if I'm wrong, but as I recall, traditionally for a long time, including last July even, the commission's policy has been that this minimum is just a rock bottom minimum, and we like to look ahead, or the commissions in the past like to look ahead and see what's coming up and have sufficient reserves, not only for what we can see that's beyond the time horizon of the calculation, but also so that if rate increases come in, we can afford to ease them into our customers. Is that correct?
yeah, that is. This utility does a great job with cost of service. Cost of service helps drive all of those decisions, and we do them with regularity, and it really helps with all of that.
Thank you. So that if we have $46 million, excuse me, at the end of this budget cycle, that doesn't mean we have too much cash, right?
You're right. And
Okay, thank
you
you.
can see it right here in the numbers.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the water division, pie charts again here. And so what I'd mentioned before on the revenues, you can see here, revenues, don't make up most of the pie chart, a little more than half. And so non-operating is significant in the water division. And certainly a big part of that has been our timber revenues. Contributions are large this year because of that $2 million amount that we talked about for the pump station zone 2. The other thing that's interesting is when we looked at our operating expenses last meeting, I don't remember, but the labor and benefits was about half of the expenses. But as soon as you put in our capital spend, it certainly from a percentage standpoint becomes much smaller. So total revenues in the water division just under 14 million and about 14.5 million for our expenses, which is a $500,000 reduction in our cash.
So excuse me again, Mark, but looking at that pie chart, when I started on the commission, we actually used timber revenues to subsidize water rates. So part of the timber money went to reduce water rates. That was changed and has been changed for a long time on the theory that's something we need for capital. And for instance, when we socked money away for a long time, and then we raised McGuire Dam and expanded the water treatment plant, or we're also using that kind of money to replace the transmission line down to town from the treatment plant. Your budget doesn't treat the timber revenues as being available to reduce rates, does it?
The timber revenues are in our non-operating revenues. They're not part of our operating revenues, and they don't cover operating expenses as a result of that. The cost of service study factors that in as well, and the consultant was I think instrumental in making that change, and continues to do our cost of service studies consistent with that philosophy.
Actually, Mark, the change was made before we started using him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the then mayor led the charge, and we just decided that it was not good for the utilities' financial health. It actually wasn't being very good steward of the water, because we were encouraging people to use water by charging them less than it cost us to produce it.
Another way to identify that those timber revenues are applying to our capital is you can see it visually here. Timber revenues are 1.6 million versus 5.7. So we're going to use all the timber plus more for capital.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And Mayor, I just want to make the point too, and make sure that everybody understands that capital is a part of rates. So all of our capital expenditures are a portion of what goes into how we determine our rates. So whether we use timber revenue to offset the rates, or we say it offsets capital, in the end, it all gets rolled into the consideration for setting the rate.
Thank you, Trina.
So net income for the water division, 5.2 million circled there at the bottom, and then I've highlighted the contributors for our non-operating income. This year, the largest of which is the contributed capital, and that again, that It's 2.1 million this year. It's included in that contributed capital, that cash amount that we anticipate receiving for the Zone 2 pump stations. There's the net timber revenue, less the costs for the timber, and then our investment income. So, and again, also our rate increases and future cost of service identified across the top. Last year, we did a cost of service for water, and it resulted in 5% rate increase for 2 years. So 5% was approved last year, and this year that will be determined after in early next fiscal year. So not included in the budget. So for our change in cash, that $500,000 use of cash circled there at the bottom, and same kind of what I talked about with the light division beginning cash balance. You add the net income and then subtract out the cash outlay for capital, and that's where the gives you your ending and the use of capital there. And you can see for the light division, I'm sorry, for the water division, the cash projection shows a decrease of about 7.5 million over the projection, and our significant projects listed here. Just like Commissioner Tanksley mentioned, the transmission line, significant capital there, as well as the facility that we discussed earlier this evening. So the minimum cash reserve for the water division shown against our total ending cash. And in this projection, goes all the way out to the end of the projection before we hit the, the point where our ending cash balance drops below the minimum. We also included from the discussion at our last meeting, this surplus water sale second source reserve, that $1.8 million amount there for fiscal year 25-26. That is the total that we have collected to date from surplus water sales to the city of Carlton and Lafayette. Well, I say to date plus next year.
Yeah.
And then the numbers in red in the out years of the projection, those are going to be refined as we get to the budget ready for our next meeting. What's not in those numbers would be additional revenues that we anticipate collecting, and also uses, or the capital that would be potentially paid by that reserve. So we'll look at that and scrub those numbers and bring updated numbers back at that time. So that gives you our ending cash balance look at the water division. So the fiber division, established in 2001, it was created for resiliency, not as an ISP. It's a dark fiber system, and it consists of 144 strands made up of 12 groups, 12 strands in each group. And the IGA, the city, the school district, and Water and Light each uses one group, 12 strands, and each pays a $5,400 annual maintenance fee to maintain the system. The remaining groups, 2 are used for dark fiber leases. And there's a total of 8 strands used by 2 customers. A few years back, we changed our cost allocation model, since most of the costs, not all, but a lot of the costs are actually generated in the water and electric utility and allocated to the fiber division. And so we use a model that's based on the number of contacts that our fiber is connected to our power poles. And based on that, the division pays the same rate as any other telecom for pole contacts. And so the result is that we end up with a break-even operating results, and that helps to confirm our the annual fee amount that we pay and that the city and the school district pays. That confirms that we're on target there to cover our costs. And our cash position is increasing each year. It was drawn down to a negative balance over a number of years because of a different, just a cost model that was that we ultimately made a change to, and we feel like this better represents the activity in the division, and we're adding around 25 to 30,000 annually to our cash balance. Estimated the end of next year will be $318,000 negative, which is an improvement over where we were even just at the start of 23-24. So that's the fiber division. So this insurance question. So I'll try to walk you through this. Quite a bit of information on here. So basically what the question is for our general liability, and this question was actually our insurance agent of record, Mr. Hartzell, Hagen Hamilton. He met with general manager and myself last Thursday and showed us the quote, which came in above what we had thought it would be. And this was the number we have in our budget. Now, quote came back at $532,000 with two options to reduce that premium, changing to a different higher deductible. And so essentially what happens is we save money. If we go to the higher deductible, we save money on our premium, but we have more exposure, more potential to pay a higher paid loss amount because we have a higher deductible. And so city county insurance did some analysis and identified here what if we did a 50-year deductible, and if we had that rather than 25,000 over the last 10 years, and you can see our claims history here over the last 10 years, if we had a $50,000 deductible, we would have saved $242,000, which averaged $24,000 a year, $60,000 deductible over 10 years, a little over $300,000, so $30,000 savings a year average. So we generally don't have claims that exceed even a $25,000 deductible. We did have 2 years where we had higher loss, this one here and this one here, and both of those were driven from personnel related claims. And so that from our history is where our claims, our larger claims have come from. Other types of claims that come in for damages related to utility problems, breaks in our system, failures, that kind of thing. Because we maintain our system and we have a pretty new system, relatively speaking, our system performs pretty well. And if there is a failure, it generally is not deemed negligence on our part, and therefore, as a result, we are there's the claim is there isn't a claim as a result of that. So that's the last 10 years. We don't know obviously what's going to happen in the future. Our thought was to go ahead and put into the budget that would come in June this $507,916 number, on the assumption that we would go to a $60,000 deductible. And then Mr. Hartzell, thank you. he'll be at the meeting in June to provide all the information when we go through our renewal, and this will be part of it. So I think a final decision can be made at that time, but but that was what I wanted to share on our insurance options and see, unless the commission would direct us otherwise. That was our thought, was to do that.
That's where I would have directed you, and I appreciate the fact that Ryan provided those options.
Mark, I have a quick question. Is that a per occurrence deductible or a per year deductible?
I don't know the answer to that. I think it is, I believe it's a cumulative
Yes.
for the year.
Okay, I'd like to know that for sure, please. You know, not right now, but
Right.
for next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The 15-16 year of such the high claim, was that a single like one-off incident? We've updated policies since that to avoid that type of claim again, or was that a multiple claims in the same year?
That was one incident.
One employment claim.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So takeaways, and we talked through this, just to kind of, again, just circle back, strong light and water estimated results for fiscal year 24-25, 25-26. Operating budget refinements, we talked about that, and that we have high non-operating income, which offsets the losses in both divisions, resulting in strong net income still. We do have significant capital projects over the projection. We talked about costs of studies and how important they are. They move our operating losses towards break even, provide funds for capital requirements, and stabilize our cash balances. And we're in cost of service now for light, and we will be performing one next year for water. And we talked about fiber and no changes there to the IGA fee. So any questions?
Commissioner Tinsley, do you have a question? Commissioner Tinsley or Garvin, do you have a question for Mark?
No, I'm okay. Thank you. Thanks for the great presentation.
Moving from Tinkersley, so I'm thinking you're safe to go.
Okay.
Well, I'm fine, thank you, and I appreciate the way this process has worked. Again, I think I said it last month, it really is much clearer and easier, I think, for the commission to digest and ask good questions about. So thank you, all staff.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep. Oh, I also have paper copies of the budget if anybody would like that, rather than having electronic.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll have the others here for anybody that would like.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next item is reimbursement agreement with ODOT. Director James Burke.
Good evening.
Hi.
So reimbursement agreement with Oregon Department of Transportation. ODOT is looking at doing some upgrades to ADA ramps along Highway 99. It's basically the scope of work is from Lowe's out to Baker Field by McMinnville High School there. Yeah. We have some infrastructure that's in the way that will have to be relocated. This infrastructure was installed prior to ODOT taking on the right of way. So it was pre-existing. So because of that, it's a reimbursement piece. So we're going to go out there and change these items and get them where they're not in conflict anymore. And they'll reimburse us for that work. So we put a lot of work in to make sure we had all the items addressed here. And we have 2 water and about 7 or 8 electrical, and they're pretty minor. So I know same as a resolution tonight. So we're looking at going out and performing this work before September. They're currently out to bid for a contract. ODOT is, right? So we're looking for an approval on that.
And they reimburse us dollar for dollar?
They will.
They will. Okay, perfect.
There's some guidelines to it, but we'll follow those guidelines and make sure we get our dollar for dollar back.
Okay, before Sam reads the resolution, do we have any questions?
No.
Okay, great.
This is
Just
resolution.
one question.
Okay.
Sorry, Sam.
That's okay.
James, does this affect our capacity for other projects that we had going on this summer? And will we have to incur overtime for those other projects that were slated to be worked on this summer to accommodate ODOT's timelines?
This will not affect any projects we have currently scheduled.
Okay, thank you.
This is resolution 2025-8, a resolution approving a utility construction agreement for work by the utility at state cost between the Oregon Department of Transportation and the city of McMinnville acting by and through its Water and Light Commission. That's 2025-8.
Okay, do I have a motion to for that resolution?
So moved.
Okay, so Commissioner,
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Garvin. Trina? Did you hear me? Trina, can you poll?
Yes. Mayor Morris,
Aye. Aye.
She said I,
can you hear me?
just barely.
Hello?
So can you hear us?
Oh, okay. My computer is really glitching out.
Hello?
Sorry about that. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I said,
Commissioner Tankersley?
Aye.
can she see us?
Commissioner Elmer?
Aye.
Commissioner Garvin?
Aye.
Got it.
Okay. All right. All right, anything else there? Anything else to share?
That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.
All right, so now we move on to general manager report.
Any questions? I do have one item. Our watershed tour is scheduled for August 13th. So I believe those invitations went out. I believe Commissioner Tankersley has accepted, Mayor Morris has, but I don't know if any of the other commissioners are available.
I am available.
Okay, so I will put yes by. Okay,
You can put me down as well, John.
okay, great. I will let Julie know. Okay, and I'll have her send out a meeting invite.
Perfect.
That works for me.
We just put the names there.
Okay,
Farmers Market, I'll get you a date for one of those two. It won't be this week, but one of the other two.
okay, I will let Julie know that as well.
Did you see that about? Okay.
The name is great. Yeah, like most.
We'll get back to you. Any
Okay.
of the rest of us can be there.
Okay, that was my only add.
Okay. I was reading congratulations on the safety award.
Yes, that was
Great.
very good. And actually, we had a number of awards too. I don't think Julie's here. We are expecting a couple others as well.
Okay, that's great. Do you have anything else to report?
I do not.
Any questions for General Manager Dietz from the commission?
Nope.
Okay. All right. There is financial information included in your packet. Did anybody have any questions on that?
No.
Okay. All right, we'll now be going into executive session. There is no further action to be taken by the commission this evening, so we will not be returning to open session.
Okay.
So I'll read this into.
Yeah, and we may want to do the property one first. if we
Okay,
have the
I'll
consultant here.
read them in that. I'll read them in that order. So we're going to enter executive session pursuant to RS 192-660 sub 2 sub E to conduct deliberations with person as designated to negotiate real property transactions. And after that, we're going to have a session pursuant to RS 192-660 sub 2 sub F to consider information and records exempt from public disclosure under 192-345-23 or security measures to protect individuals, buildings, properties, information processing. And RS 2, 660, sub 2, sub P to consider matters relating to cybersecurity
Close the door.
infrastructure and responses to cybersecurity threats. I don't believe we have any media here with us tonight. We did, we'd be warning them not to share any information disclosed in the executive session. Also, as Madam Mayor indicated, we will not be returning to an open session. We will adjourn in the executive session without taking any further action in the public meeting.
Thank you.
Maybe some of our attendees took a little break.
I can
Oh,
start off with that.
okay.
We have three you guys. I think there's one other, right? You, Wayne, then, no. Might grab a chair. Might grab a chair. I grab this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.